It's week 38 of 2021. This is the big story explained. I'm Smitha Nair. If you aspire to study medicine, MBBS, anywhere in India, in a government medical college, a deemed university, or a private medical college, you have to clear NEET, the National Eligibility Cum Entrance Test. So, NEET is a high-stakes, all-or-nothing knockout exam. Sure, engineering too has its own high-stakes exam by way of the JEE, or the Joint Entrance Exam, but it isn't the only gateway to study engineering in India. Now, some of you would ask what's wrong with having a single standardized assessment. You would argue it brings parity, that it can potentially end the infamous and thriving practice of capitation fee in medical education. For those unfamiliar with the term, it refers to the amount of money charged in excess of the approved fees to grant a seat to someone who may otherwise not be deserving. Advance booking of medical seats, also called blocking by paying huge sums, has of course been a widely acknowledged fact. What then is Tamil Nadu's case against NEET? Why has the state, with an enviable enrollment in higher education, it leads the country with a gross enrollment ratio of 49%, passed a bill in the Legislative Assembly to exempt candidates for its undergraduate medical courses from NEET? The findings of a committee that studied the impact of NEET on profiles of students who made the cut and the fallout, consequently, on the painstakingly built and robust public health system in the state provide answers. Let me explain. The committee found, post-NEET, there was a significant decrease in proportion of students belonging to rural areas, economically weaker backgrounds, first-generation graduates, Tamil medium schools, and candidates from government schools among those getting into the state's medical colleges. Students from state board schools, who in the pre-NEET period made up 98.23% of those getting into the state's medical colleges, now account for only 59.41%. The proportion of CBSE board students has gone up from less than 1% to 38.84%. NEET, the committee contends, is mainly based on the CBSE curriculum and by extension is a disadvantage for state board students. Let's take a closer look at this. The social profile of students belonging to the CBSE is largely urban, upper caste, upper middle class or rich. What about representation in sheer numbers? CBSE is not the largest board in India. As a comparison, the Maharashtra State Board alone has more students in class 12 than CBSE All India. Now, educationists have often said there's nothing to show that students from a particular board are inherently more meritorious than others. But there is evidence to show students from certain boards like CBSE do better in common entrance tests. A case that illustrates the point is a study by Anil Kumar and Dibakar Chatterjee of the Indian Institute of Science that reviewed the comparative performance of students from different boards. It showed that when it comes to science proficiency, state board students from West Bengal did better than CBSE students in physics, chemistry, biology and mathematics. Andhra Pradesh did better than CBSE in mathematics and physics. But neither of the states were top performers in NEET. Professor Jawahar Neeson, member of the committee headed by Justice A.K. Rajan that studied the impact of NEET in Tamil Nadu, has argued that by simply not taking into account class 12 marks and instead solely relying on results of multiple choice tests, it in effect undermines the need for students to have a broader understanding of concepts. He joins us on this podcast. Professor Neeson, your report essentially says that NEET privileges test-taking skills and honing that skill requires monetary investment in coaching classes geared to teach just that, thereby putting socially and financially underprivileged at a disadvantage.
You go through all pedagogical learning and educational research materials, it says that a, a test like NEET should not require any prior coaching. Our record shows 99% of the students entering medical education are coached by the private coaches, right? Number one. And now our record also shows roughly 71% of our students, medical students entering medical education, are repeaters, repeatedly taking NEET examination for more than two times.
So you're saying it discriminates against students who cannot afford to take 1 or 2 or 3 year breaks and continue to spend lakhs of rupees in coaching to master test taking.
Yeah.
Your report speaks in detail of how all this will impact Tamil Nadu's public health system adversely, particularly in rural areas.
Yeah.
Before I get to that question, here's a well documented all India fact: the doctor to patient ratio is abysmally low in rural areas. States find it very difficult to get qualified teachers for rural postings. Now, you argue that it is predominantly the students from rural, disadvantaged backgrounds studying medicine who go back to the rural areas to serve, who dedicate themselves to government hospitals.
Yes, yes.
And if, as a result of NEET, the proportion of these students in medical college intake keeps decreasing, it would simply mean lesser and lesser qualified doctors in public health care.
Yeah.
Now, your analysis shows that majority medical seats in post-NEET period are occupied by students of an affluent segment. Basically, the factors being higher levels of parental income, higher levels of parental education, urban background, etc. And you say they are expected to prefer working in the urban corporate sector. Professor Nason, is it your case that the system for medical exams Tamil Nadu followed pre-NEET ensured equitable distribution of health-related resources, including qualified doctors across the state? And can you illustrate that?
Exactly, to say 63.3% of rural population in Tamil Nadu are dependent upon the government healthcare system, whereas the national average is only 32.5%. The reason is, even the affluent communities who are well off prefer to go to the government healthcare system, government hospitals, not to the private. And if you look at the small town and the suburban areas, about 40%, about 41% people in Tamil Nadu are dependent on government healthcare, whereas all over India, the national trend is only 26.2%. And the average rural population by a primary healthcare center, if you look at, it's about 25,480 in Tamil Nadu, whereas the national average is 35,730. So there is only, so there is one primary health center um, covers in all over India. National average is 35,000 plus, whereas in Tamil Nadu it is only 25,000 plus. So in all respect, and we have super specialty doctors serving the common people from the district headquarters and even the taluk headquarters, government hospitals. Whereas you will not find this in many states, almost more than 80% states in India. So that means the one World Bank report was saying that the Tamil Nadu doctors, graduating from Tamil Nadu medical colleges, this is the past record. More than 70% doctors prefer to work in the rural area and especially in the primary healthcare center.
Okay, but what about the point, Professor Nason, made by advocates of NEET that the admission based on the NEET merit list will be as per existing reservation and domicile quota norms in each state? And the effect of NEET on the caste composition of students in medical colleges will be negligible because the rule of reservation is applied for selection once NEET scores are obtained. There is also a claim that in the last available data, not a single seat in government medical colleges that was reserved went unoccupied.
I agree with him. But these communities who were enjoying some share in the open competition, these reservation social, groups who also have that they have their own reservation share, and beyond that they also have a share in open competition if they at par they performed at par with the other open competitive competition students. In those share they lost. That is our finding. The finding is in the BC community lost 3% in the post NEET period. MBC community lost 5% share, seat in the post NEET, and scheduled caste 1.6% seat they lost because of NEET in the open competition. So what does it mean then? They got, say, for instance, a scheduled caste in Tamil Nadu having 15% assuming, and if this 15% they had, and beyond that, they were having some share in the open competition as well. Now they are not able to do anything in the open competition. It's a zero almost now. So that means it has got something to do with these disadvantaged communities.
Okay, what about capitation fee? One of the stated aims of NEET has been to curb this practice. With NEET, even for management quota, for instance, it's argued that unless the candidate has made the merit list, they cannot be given admission. And to that extent, is it correct to say that NEET has been able to fulfill this aim of curbing money power and securing seats? Or do you believe that money is still a discriminating factor in admissions?
Yes, madam. So pre-NEET period, the capitation was there. Even now, silently, some people are also doing capitation, but not widely. I agree. But it has transformed into a different state of commercial affair. See, before in Tamil Nadu, I tell you the example. In Tamil Nadu, there was a capitation fee of about 90 lakhs rupees, 1 crore rupees those days as a capitation fee. But the fee was only 7 lakhs rupees. The tuition fee was only 7 lakhs rupees and 10 lakhs rupees per annum. So that means this 1 crore plus this altogether 5 years, 50 lakhs, 1.5 crores. Now, after the NEET, they did not, in Tamil Nadu, they don't charge capitation fee, but they took this 1.5 crore total and then they divided annually, and now they are charging 30 lakhs rupees, 25 lakhs minimum. They averagely charge 30, and even in Karnataka, it is escalating to 35 lakhs rupees per year. I'm talking about. So 30 lakhs rupees, 35 lakhs rupees per year, and for 5 years you calculate it is more than 1.5 crore. So now the NEET has legalized the money that they levy. Now you say that is it commercialization or not? And commercialization has increased before joining the medical admission because they have to spend about 15 lakhs rupees 2 to 3 years. 2 to 3 years they have to repeatedly take NEET coaching. 15 to about 15 lakhs rupees they have to spend before even making application for medical admission.
So you're saying that the poor or the middle class student who may have a higher score than the richer student, the affluent student, may not be able to take that seat and will have to give it up because he or she cannot afford the fee.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Professor Nason, for speaking with us. Thanks for your time. Well, the subject is contentious because it's complex. Tamil Nadu's bill seeking to scrap NEET for admissions to undergraduate medical courses is yet to receive presidential assent. From all accounts, it's unlikely to. What about the courts? Well, the Supreme Court has already ruled in favor of NEET in 2016. Net, students in Tamil Nadu will be faced with uncertainty. But here's something to think about. What is the purpose of medical education? At its core, it is to create well-trained doctors who will serve the health system equitably. Therefore, an all-India audit or a review of whether NEET indeed is a fair admission process is there, as has been suggested by that committee report, a built-in privilege in the process. Does it exacerbate existing inequities and calls for some changes? Seems to be a fair ask. See you next week.